What are biological computers and why do we need them? Today you will learn what biological engineering is and what the benefits are. You will also learn how long it will take for it to arrive to us. And you'll learn how biological computing will change the world as we know it. Welcome to Data and AI Talks, where we talk about everything you need to know when you work in data and AI, or if you want to work in this business. My name is Vincent Spruit and I help data professionals develop their career. If you're new here, don't forget to click subscribe. Thank you so much. Today I chose a topic that's just plain entertaining. We have seen experiments with flesh being brought to life in Frankenstein, or how alien races have biological ships, but up to now it seemed mostly like creepy science fiction. I learned, however, that a few companies around the world are actually believing that this is the way forward and that the technology is evolving that way. One of these companies is Final Spark, and they're based in Switzerland. For over 10 years, they have been researching the possibility of biological engineering, and they feel like they're now at the brink of a breakthrough. Needless to say, I have many questions, and that's why I invited the founder, Fred Jordan. Welcome, Fred.
Well, thank you for welcoming here. So I'm happy to talk about this.
Nothing I said in the introduction is a lie, right? You're making the new biological computer.
Yes, actually, we're working on it. We and many universities in the world, yes.
Cool. Very cool. Hey, so maybe you can tell us a little bit more about yourself. How did you get into this field?
I'm a French engineer, and I went in Switzerland 30 years ago to make a PhD in signal processing because I'm a physicist only. All my life, I wanted to make a thinking machine. This is, even when I was 12, I was programming. All vacation, I was in the dark programming. So that's my thing. Okay. So we built a first company and then the second one, which is Final Spark. And we built this in 2014. And the idea behind was we want to look at AI in a way that nobody has looked before. Because we were seeing these big companies, there was no chance that we could compete. But we started with purely digital approach, okay? Particularly artificial neural networks, but digital, okay? The sophisticated models. But at some point we realized that in order to run thousands of neurons, we needed kilowatts of power of server, okay? And for each kilowatt, you need actually 2 kilowatts for cooling. And then we realized, okay, in our brain, there is 100 billion of neurons, okay? And we start to have problems with a bit realistic neurons, with just a few thousands. So we are doing something very, very wrong. So this was the start of thinking maybe we should stop about this simulation of neurons, digital simulations, and start with the real ones.
I see that, of course, in the world, everyone sees this. We're using so much more data. The technology is advancing so much more, and it is absorbing a ridiculous amount of energy right now.
Yes, that's a reality. And now think 1 minute about your own brain. Your brain is with 100 billion of neurons, 10,000 synapses per neuron, okay? You are consuming the equivalent of 20 watts of power.
Yeah.
If I wanted tomorrow to make a simulation of your brain, the minimum is going to be a small nuclear plant. This is what I will need. And I'm not sure I will get the training right, by the way. So it's a very coarse simulation. So you see this differential. We are talking about something like 1 million more efficient. In a world where we are fighting to get maybe 10% or 20% more energy efficient something. So it's a 1 million factor. It's really game changing.
Well, it's an idea that occurred to me is that sometimes you feel like a computer is so smart and it can do very fast calculations, but the brain is actually a lot smarter, right? Because it's not just doing simple math. It has smell and it has vision. But why is the brain such an advanced computer, you would think?
Brains are different, okay? You cannot compare side to side the performance of each, okay? If you talk about mathematics, okay, computations, numerical computations, we are going to lag, but are huge factors, okay, compared to digital computers. But if you talk about decision-making, integration of many information in real time, to make a decision that makes sense in the real world. One of the big tests of AI today, which is considered that harder than the Turing test, is to enter into a house and prepare a coffee in a house that you don't know.
Okay.
A robot that would do this would be like the top of what he never did
the
before.
coffee test. So that okay, yeah, well, that doesn't sound too hard for us, indeed. Like I think we are operating on a very different level with machines.
Yes.
I'm just trying to picture it because I am looking at in my brain at a brain. I'm thinking this is how then the computer would look like. Will we all have a brain on our desk, or how will the biological computers look like?
So at least in the first stage, what we envision and what we are already doing actually is more like a server. Okay, think about cloud computing. Okay, when you make a request on ChatGPT, okay, you don't have ChatGPT running on your PC. It is not this way. You just type some words, it goes to the internet, somewhere there are some servers computing the answer. Fundamentally, we could do something similar where you use some computation power on a server somewhere. It does a job which is similar to what is done today in digital, but it consumes 1 million times less energy.
So basically, you will incorporate the biological computers with the technology as we have it today.
Yeah, this is already the case.
Together.
Yeah, this is the case. Actually, what we have, the neurons that have in the lab, just below here. So we have the lab, and there are universities from all over the world connecting to our neurons and programming them or trying to remotely 24/7. So it works. It's not something that we are projecting to do. It's real.
And how did it already work?
What already works is a research tool. Okay, so that means listening to what the neurons are saying and talking to them. Basically, these are the two things, and it's fundamental because all about learning things. It's about exchanging. This is what I'm doing right now. We are actually exchanging electrical information. At the end of the day, I'm stimulating your ears, and then you're talking to me. And that's it. This is all about input-output.
You actually, I don't know how to understand it. You build maybe a computer like from cells.
Yes.
And it's how big is it to just have an idea?
Okay, so it's small. Okay. At this point, it's small. It's 500 microns, so it's about half a millimeter. So that means that you can see it with your eyes, with the naked eye. It's okay, and with some manipulation, we do it really by looking at it. Okay, and we put this on electrodes. And with the electrodes, we can read electrical signal and send electrical signal. Mm-hmm. And that's it. In the principle, that's very simple. But that's the beginning. Of course, we are using small ones because there are many reasons why it's simpler to use small organoids. These are called brain organoids than big ones.
Yeah, of course, they have less power. But will they be able to grow, or will it work in a different way? Is it like our bodies can actually grow? Would this brain also be able to grow?
Actually, we are voluntarily preventing them to grow. Okay, there are some specific protocols. Schematically speaking, what I'm saying is not strictly true, but your neurons are not growing. You are not making new neurons. Okay, basically, roughly speaking. Okay, so your brain is not growing anymore. Okay, so sorry for this. At least the number of cells. Okay, the number of connections may change. Yeah. And this is how you learn, okay? So what we do is that we start with stem cells. Stem cells will duplicate infinitely. Okay. And at some point we say, stop, we have enough. Because it's automatic, you know, you don't have to do something, just you look at it and it just multiplies, okay? You say, stop now, go and differentiate, start to be a real brain cell. And a real brain cell doesn't duplicate.
Interesting. So the main reason for this is that it will be so much more ecological friendly, I would say. So it uses a lot less energy. Are there any other reasons?
I think maybe the most important reasons and the most useful things, I don't know them.
It is maybe like AI in the beginning.
It may be something else that, you know, imagine we would discuss right now with the guy who invented the transistor. And the guy would tell you, yes, it's very useful in order to control some current. I see some applications for lights or things like this, okay? But it would be totally wrong, actually. It wouldn't think about smartphones and internet.
Yeah.
No way. So now I'm telling you, this is what we see, like energy consumption, but there may be many other ways, including in things related to therapeutic treatments for brain, whatever. I don't know yet.
Yeah, no, that's very clear to say. I think when we just got the cell phone and the internet, of course, we had no idea what it could do and how it would be such a big part of our lives. So how long do you think it will take for us to be actually implemented on a larger scale?
Well, The short answer is I don't know for sure. I guess you're not surprised. The hope is that in 5 years we can have something like a prototype which is really doing some useful things. Okay, but this is a new field. Okay,
So,
think about quantum computing 20 years ago. Okay.
I think the big companies are not really investing in this yet, right? Are they
No,
waiting
no.
for you guys to make the first workable computer, and then they will buy your company and do it, scale it?
I don't know what's going to happen. I'm very fascinated by this, okay? Because I talk to Intel, Microsoft, Nvidia, and these people are like me. I mean, they love digital. Like, this is their world, okay? But if you start talking about biocomputing, they are 100% lost. They don't know what you're talking about. Okay. So I may be wrong, but I see the culture of this company, they're not going to adapt. These are going to be a new generation of companies, totally disruptive, different. Maybe they will buy them, but I mean, we are using labs, living cells. This is a very different way of doing innovation, you know.
I can imagine. So we don't really know what it will mean for the current industry. Will they all adapt this, or will they go extinct, or will it be a complete cooperation?
It's still unknown. Think like Nvidia actually, made a fortune in supercomputers while they were doing graphic cards for geeks playing video games. So it's unpredictable what's going to happen here. It's way more different than Nvidia and IBM or Cray Research, for instance. The mix is going to be strange and interesting.
I can imagine. So for the people that actually listen, a lot of them, they work in data, they work in AI. I work in recruitment for artificial intelligence. How will this change our jobs? Will it actually change our jobs? What do you think?
So there are some fundamentals, surprisingly, that are going to stay the same for AI, okay? As AI. In AI, you have training sets, you have test sets, you have validation sets, for instance, for training your networks, okay? You have a concept of loss. Okay. All these concepts fundamentally are the same for us in biology, okay? Biological networks, we have also formed some inputs with the electrodes, some outputs, always with the electrodes, but we have other ways to change the synaptic weight in order to do the correct input-output relationship, which are defined in the training set. So the way we accomplish this is different, but the data fundamentally the data is the same requirements for data of input-output. So I can see some very big similarities, like, all this value of the data in AI, I think it remains true for OI, let's say organoid intelligence.
Mm-hmm. OI, you say OI is something really different than AI, because as I understood it now, is maybe that it is more like the hardware that is being changed and not so much the software.
Yeah, so now it's the whole question always, and it's always been this way in AI, and now in OI, it's training. Okay, how do you modify your network in order to minimize the loss? That means learning something. When you do AI, you do, for instance, gradient descent, because you have access to all the weights that defines the connections between the neurons. Okay, and this has been around for 30 years. When you do OI, like organoid intelligence, you're not able to change and to tune each of the connections. Okay, the way you work is with a bit like human beings, with rewards and punishment. So you tell to the system you did right or you did wrong, and you expect the system to autocorrect in order to minimize the loss, therefore to learn.
Is that also how AI works?
In AI, it doesn't work this way. Well, most of the time, except in reinforcement learning, when we implement digitally some similar mechanisms. But there is, when you use organoid, it's totally, you're totally blind, actually. You're just trusting.
Like a black box.
Yeah, it's people always say that it's a black box with AI, okay? But I tell you, with AI, it's much more blacker.
It's much darker.
Because you have to rely on already built-in learning mechanisms. There is no other way. Okay? If I tell you, Vincent, how do you learn things? Yeah. What do you do? Okay, yeah, well, you know some techniques, okay? Yeah, repeating, but you don't know actually what's going on with your own neurons. You have no clue.
It's interesting. I was actually talking about that this morning because, well, we read a lot. You read through, you see something, you are in a classroom. That's how we are programmed to learn. But life also teaches you a lot, and they never teach you something in the class. They always teach you through an experience or through a feeling, and it's something you will take on with you for the rest of your life. And I guess maybe this new technology will learn by actually reading certain lines or being in the classroom, but it might also learn through. It's not able to have experiences or feelings, right? Or would that be a lesson for that?
It's able to have experiences exactly the same way as you and as AI. When we do training of AI system, we put them in experience mode artificially. Okay, people have been doing this in the field of in vivo experiments, like with rats, for 50 years now. They put them in situation when they experience something in order to modify their behavior.
Yeah.
So it's the same for us. With electrodes, we can simulate that they feel something and they react, and we change the feeling that they get. A bit like the Matrix, if you want.
No, it is, of course, a complicated subject. There's people studying this, very smart people studying this for years, and still just get it. We're getting the grasp of it because it's such an. You have been working on it for a long time, but it's still a pretty early phase, right? A little bit looking to the future. Also, we see that we are using phones. We see that we are using smartwatches. Some people even want to maybe have an implant in their brain, which is still technology as we know it. Do you see this incorporating also with our bodies?
So honestly, I'm now out of my field of expertise, but I'm trying to do the exercise with you. Okay, there is something that is for sure. Okay, is that we are using human neurons in our lab. Okay, there is nothing that interfaces better with brain than human neurons. Okay, because these are the same creature. Okay.
Yes.
And actually, the problems begin when you start to interfacing artificial things like electrodes with neurons. They don't like it. Okay, I can tell you. Okay, so there is a natural reason why things that I mean, if you could imagine, like you would grow an organoid that would learn how to speak Chinese, and you put it in the brain, you know how to speak Chinese. I'm not sure it can work as easily as
I know
this.
a new language, right? That's easy. Yeah, that's what you see in the science fiction. You know, if that would be the case, then if it's the same type of cells, maybe it can even change the cells in your own brain, and it can change a person on a fundamental level, and that is maybe a little bit scary as well. And I take this to the bigger question, because with Frankenstein or with all of these issues, there was always the people or religion being opposed to this because they said we're messing with the work of God. But are we also with cloning on a certain level? Is it against what we believe in? What do you think about that?
But what believe in is changing always. Okay, and it's changing quickly and a lot. Okay, I think the first step here, and I think it's what our field people call it biocomputing. Biocomputing, the only idea here is to consider that the neuron fundamentally is a machine that you can use. But it's not new that people have considered biology as machine that they can use. This is not a new idea. What is new is that it's a neuron and it's a human neuron. Because as you said, this is special. Brain, don't touch the brain, okay? You can touch everything else, but there is something magic with the neurons that other cells will not have. Now, I've been spending so many hours behind my microscope looking at these neurons. I can tell you that don't seem very magic, actually, okay? And if I compare with the rat neurons, they are not that different, actually. So they are a bit slower, a bit more fragile. So not
very impressive.
So if you tell me things are changing, the way we consider our brain and what we think, this is very intimate. All our thoughts come from our neurons, and then you say, maybe I can use this as a machine. Well, so what are we? That's right. That's a legitimate question.
So we are sort of a machine, and then they talk about the soul and how we get our personality and all of these things. But yeah, that's a topic for another day, I would say. We're moving to the end of the interview. I would want to know, how do you see this develop over the next 5 years? Because you said in 5 years it might work. Is there something you need?
So as a company, we need some investment. Okay, we have one company that is working well, that is fueling the other one. So that we can live for this, but we are six. Okay. We would like that we are, 30 people, 40.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I'm looking is to raise 50 million euros. This is what I have in mind. Okay. And my guess is that in the coming years, there's going to be a boom in our field. A lot of small companies are going to emerge and asking for big investments because this is a new frontier.
So, and if somebody has a spare 50 million, you're the guy to go to. It will be a very good investment into the future.
Yes, you are very welcome to contact me.
Very good. Hey, I love to that you told me a little bit more about this. I've learned a lot, even though it's still for me hard to grasp, and you could probably imagine with the questions. But as a last question, is there maybe a book or somebody to follow that we can read to learn more about this topic?
That's a difficult question. You know why? Because the field didn't exist maybe 1 year ago. Okay. So if you tell me, can I read a book? Say there is no book. We are writing the content that may become a book later. Not only me, because we have different universities and other companies. There will be the first conference in Vienna. Okay. On the 24th of June on this topic. So it's just coming. So just to tell you, as new as it is, there's really not a lot of content if you want to learn about this. On our website, we share about some information about what we're doing. So that's an inspiration. If you're way more technical, you can dive into the publications, the early publications of Professor Potter 15 years ago. Which in my view laid down the foundations of what we are doing today. Is now actually an advisor of Finance Park. And that would be my best. There was also an article from Professor Hartung last year, which I think is worth reading. And I'm sorry. Well, we just published an article ourselves last month.
And we did this podcast. So if you watch this, you're already pretty up to date.
Yeah, with these three things, I mean, you've got some content.
Okay, thank you so much. We might get more into this in the future. And well, if you pick up that 50 million investment, I will probably not hear from you again, because then you'll be too busy working, changing the world.
Yes, maybe, yes.
But thank you so much, Fred, for your time today. And I will keep following your company.
Thank you very much. And thanks for giving me these opportunities and all these interesting questions.
For all the listeners who are still listening to right now, click on subscribe and help us, and make sure to watch the next video, which is showing here.